So there is a growing phenomenon called a sleep divorce, which may actually help prevent you from having a real one. And what we know from anonymous surveys is that about 30 to 40% of couples will admit to sleeping in separate locations, in separate beds. And what we also know is of those people who do go to sleep together, about 2/3 of them will actually wake up in a different location the next morning. So there seems to be some difficulty that partners have with sleeping together. Why is that? Well, part of the reason is because of the tossing and turning. Males, for example, have twice the rates of snoring, and particularly a disorder that we call sleep apnea. That can keep the spouse awake throughout the night with that snoring. But we also know that, on the other hand, females are twice as likely to suffer from insomnia than males. And so I think there is this growing trend that people are recognizing that they can get better sleep if they sleep separately. And there is, of course, a stigma that goes along with that, which is if you're not sleeping together, then perhaps you are not actually sleeping together. Well, it turns out the opposite is true, that when partners start to get better sleep, we know that reproductive hormones start to increase, physical desire will also increase, your mood and your emotions become more stable. That means that you form a closer bond with your partner rather than feeling always at odds with them. All of these things end up leading people, when they're getting better sleep by way of a sleep divorce, to actually having stronger physical intimacy and a better sex life as a consequence. Now, it's not to suggest that a sleep divorce is for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all. For some people, they actually feel much more secure when they're sleeping together. They feel comforted, and it can actually be beneficial rather than harmful. So it really is up to you, but if you feel as though you could benefit by way of sleeping in separate locations, then just give it a try. It doesn't have to be forever. You can do a 1-week experiment and then have a discussion and speak to each other and see if you honestly feel as though your sleep is better, and is your mood brighter? Are you getting along better? And if that's true, you can keep going with it. So when it comes to the sleep divorce, certainly sleeping in separate beds in the same room can help. It stops with the physicality of tossing and turning. Sometimes it can still be difficult with snoring because it still communicates and translates across the room. So in those scenarios, trying to find 2 separate rooms in which to sleep can often be better. But I think it's really just one of those things that you can try, you can experiment with. The other thing I would say about the sleep divorce too is making sure that you find ways to get what you still get from normally sleeping together. What I mean by that is the bookends of sleep. What people really miss about going to bed in the same location is the ability just before you fall asleep to sort of have a cuddle, have a kiss, and then in the morning waking up together. So what you can actually do as a partnership is decide that if you're going to sleep in separate bedrooms, one of the partners will come into the other room, you'll have your routine of saying goodnight, and then in the morning, whoever wakes up first can come back and greet the person who wakes up second, and you can still have those intimate moments that typically people want out of a co-sleeping arrangement, but you still get separate sleep in between, which really can enrich the relationship too. So you can have both your cake and eat it in that regard when it comes to the sleep divorce.